What am I gonna underneath the bench? Do you want to get on top? Did you want to be on top?
No, I'm just fine right where I am.
Hi there. Today we're going to explore the plot of the 1991 film, Career Opportunities. The film begins with Jim Dodge reading a newspaper article about a robbery in which a store clerk was killed. The sketches of the killers are prominently printed on the front page. He explains that the victim wasn't just a store employee, but someone connected to the mafia. Jim worked for the FBI and knows what he's talking about. He would personally handle the investigation, but he has a date scheduled and has already hired a private plane to pick up a girl from Spain. At that moment, the door to the room opens, and a man kicks the chair out from under Jim. All this time, his listeners have been dogs being treated at a veterinary clinic. The owner fires the slacker and throws his belongings onto the street. Jim continues telling stories to some guys outside, claiming he sold his veterinary clinic for another lucrative opportunity. At a local diner, he pretends to be a gourmet and asks when sashimi will appear on the menu. The owner of the cafe and gas station refuses to hire him, as he has already fired Jim 5 times. He advises Jim to move to another town because everyone here already knows about his bad reputation. A stunning girl named Josie pulls up to the gas station and asks to fill up the tank. Jim starts flirting with her. She smiles back, but their conversation is interrupted by Jim's furious father. He found out about his son's latest firing and drags him home. No excuses or tall tales will work this time. During dinner, Jim's older sister and younger brother mock him for already being fired from 20 jobs. The sister also lives with their parents, but at least helps with the rent, unlike Jim. The next morning, Jim's father struggles to wake him up to take him to another job interview. They drive there in the father's work vehicle, a massive cement mixer. The father is frustrated that his 21-year-old son can't stand on his own 2 feet, but Jim doesn't understand why he should move out of his parents' house. The father gives his son one last chance before sending him to another city to work at his uncle's gardening store. Jim gets dropped off near the massive Target supermarket. He is interviewed by the branch manager, who greets him warmly. The manager offers him a huge salary, health insurance, a profit share, a pension plan, and a company car. Jim is surprised but quickly hides it and even asks for a raise, claiming he expected more. The manager agrees after a brief pause and, with a smile, informs the secretary about the good news. But it all turns out to be a mistake. The manager confused Jim with another candidate who was supposed to become the assistant manager. Jim is only offered a job as a night janitor for $4.50 an hour. With no other choice, he accepts. Meanwhile, the mayor meets with representatives of the governor who want to build a Japanese factory in the town. He flatly refuses. At that moment, his daughter Josie walks in. She decides to provoke the guests. She gives one of them a provocative kiss and only shakes hands with the other. Her furious father yells at her after the guests leave. That same night, 2 bandits, the ones mentioned in the newspaper, find a young couple making out in a car. They throw them out and steal the car. Jim prepares for his first day at work. He leaves the house wearing a suit and carrying a suitcase, shocking his father when a limousine pulls up to take him to work. His father is stunned, but doesn't notice the funeral home sign on the side of the car. Jim hired the limo to make himself look like a successful businessman. He arrives at Target, imagining himself as the store owner. Meanwhile, inside the store, Josie is casually shoplifting. There are only 5 minutes left until closing, but she isn't in a hurry to leave. Despite Jim acting like a king and demanding that the staff fix the cracks in the floor, his immediate supervisor, the night security guard, sees right through him and points a shotgun at him. The guard belittles the newcomer and reminds him of his main task, cleaning the floor. Touching the merchandise and eating from the shelves is strictly forbidden, and the main lights will be turned off to save electricity. The guard himself doesn't want to stay in the store all night and leaves. Jim doesn't get the key either. Instead, he is locked in from the outside. Jim protests, saying that in case of a fire he won't be able to get out, but no one listens. Left alone, he quickly realizes the advantages of his situation. He immediately turns the lights back on, and after a few hours of work, he starts grabbing whatever he wants from the shelves. He makes his way to the store's PA system and indulges in his favorite activity, making up stories about his imaginary successes. He watches TV and calls his parents, who are already in bed. Jim asks what they would like for Christmas. His father begins to doubt his parenting methods, realizing that instead of constantly scolding his son, he should have tried to teach him something useful and help him become a better person. Meanwhile, Jim is feeling fantastic. He plays the drums and skates around the wide aisles in just his underwear. Suddenly, he spots Josie and can't believe his eyes. In shock, he crashes into a display rack. At the same time, Josie's father, who realizes she hasn't come home, is out searching for her, driving around town with the sheriff. Josie doesn't understand why Jim is putting on such a ridiculous show. Jim doesn't understand the question either. He was just enjoying life. But what is Josie doing in the closed store? She says she fell asleep in the fitting room, but Jim can tell she's lying. Josie finally admits the truth. She didn't leave on time and hid in the store because she was too scared to get arrested for shoplifting. It's yet another attempt to rebel against her controlling father, who has been micromanaging her life ever since the tragic death of his wife and son. The two decide to have dinner together, and Jim prepares a chicken and white wine sauce in the microwave. As usual, he talks a lot and tells Josie all about his life. He is surprisingly honest, but when he does manage to exaggerate a bit, Josie calls him a city liar. She quickly apologizes, saying that's what everyone calls him. Jim plays the fool and brushes it off, claiming it's just jealousy from small-town folks. Of course, there are plenty of rumors about the mayor's pretty and rebellious daughter as well. Jim is curious whether Josie believes the rumors about him, but she responds that she doesn't know him well enough to make any conclusions. They went to the same school, but never interacted. Jim was the outcast that other guys bullied, while Josie, on the contrary, had the happiest years of her life in school. Josie claims that Jim is lucky because he can control his own life. Meanwhile, she is not allowed to leave the house without her father's permission. But Jim has his own struggles. He's convinced that he knows what he wants. At home, there's good food and cable TV, but his parents keep threatening to kick him out. Annoyed, Jim steps outside to take out the trash. Josie turns on some music and starts dancing. Jim comes back and joins her. Meanwhile, two thugs driving by the store notice the bright sign and decide to stop. Josie grabs the microphone and announces over the loudspeaker that she's not interested in guys who still want to live with their parents at 21. That's why Jim exaggerates his achievements. The moment he's completely honest, that's the reaction he gets. Josie asks how a guy can live like that, sacrificing his freedom and the chance to build his own family. Jim counters, saying that if he wants to bring a girl home, he'll do it easily. He just hasn't felt the need to yet. Josie isn't satisfied with that answer and pushes Jim to admit that he is, in fact, losing a lot by staying at his parents' house. But Josie isn't perfect either. If she's so brave, why doesn't she just run away and gain her freedom? Instead, she keeps putting up with her father's control and pulling silly stunts that don't solve anything. Josie admits that she's terrified of being alone. Meanwhile, neither of their parents are asleep. Jim's father is nervously raiding the fridge, eating everything in sight, while Josie's father continues to patrol the town with the sheriff, discussing his strained relationship with his daughter. Josie accepts the criticism and suggests that she and Jim run away together, as far away from their parents as possible. Hollywood is especially appealing to her. Jim declines. He once again justifies his fears, saying he needs to find his purpose first and get a steady job. After all, you can't just run off to nowhere without a plan or money. Josie isn't thinking that far ahead. She just wants to escape her father, who still scolds her for being disobedient. Expensive cars and clothes don't bring her any joy. Jim sympathizes with her and agrees to run away together. Besides, Josie has $52,000 with her, more than enough to buy a car and live for a while. While Jim is counting the money, Josie starts teasing him. But Jim doesn't take the bait and doesn't rush. Instead, he says he has a special memory from elementary school. Back then, their teacher organized a dance night, and at one point he ended up paired with Josie, but they didn't get to finish the dance because the partners were switched. Now he wants to finish that dance with her. Josie is caught off guard. She doesn't even remember it, and the request doesn't seem particularly romantic to her. She was expecting something else. Still, she agrees, and they begin to dance slowly, gradually moving closer to a kiss. They have no idea that two robbers are already lurking nearby. The young couple sneaks away to a tent, but suddenly hears a knock on the store door. It's the sheriff, who arrived at Target with the mayor. He scares off the robbers who hide around the corner. Jim, terrified, thinks the security guard has returned with the key to check on his work. He rushes to the entrance, knocking over shelves of merchandise, but to his relief he only sees the sheriff. Jim covers for Josie, not revealing their secret. Unaware of anything, the sheriff drives away with the mayor. The couple continues to have fun, roller skating through the aisles until they run into two men holding guns. Knocked off their feet, the robbers hit the floor, giving Jim and Josie a moment to hide in the changing room under a bench. But the robbers still spot them and take them hostage. Josie tries to convince them that the whole town is looking for her, and killing her would be a terrible idea. Jim activates his imagination, trying to distract the criminals. He tells them that the mafia is about to arrive at the store to make an illegal deal worth millions, and they'd better get out of there. The girl is supposedly being held as collateral to ensure the deal doesn't fall through, but the plan doesn't work. So Jim leaps to a shelf, grabs a tape recorder, and pretends it's a radio. He acts as though he's communicating with the buyers, saying that the situation is under control. For a moment, he feels like a hero, convincing the robbers to put down their weapons and release the hostage. But the robbers smirk and reveal that their guns aren't even loaded. Fearing a fight, Jim is forced to admit he was bluffing and suggests a truce. He hands the weapons back to the criminals, but they immediately fire into the air, showing they can play mind games too. The situation resets to square one. Josie quietly suggests a new plan to Jim. She'll convince the robbers to take her with them, steal their car, and then come back for Jim. Josie turns on the charm to the max. One of the robbers can't resist and agrees to her proposal. Now the three of them start looting the store. Jim nervously watches from the sidelines, wondering if he too has fallen for that flirty look and sweet voice that Josie can so effortlessly switch on and off. Jim snaps, risking his life. He tries to stop Josie at the last moment before she leaves, but she gives him a sign that everything is going according to plan. For the second time that night, the town's notorious liar is outplayed by even more experienced con artists. While the robbers load the loot into the trunk, Josie slams the gas pedal and takes off. The criminals head back to Target to vent their anger on Jim. Jim finds a shotgun and some shells and grabs the store's microphone. His speech has been rehearsed for a long time. Then he launches into a rant about mafia dealings, FBI investigations, and his own detective experience, which of course is entirely made up. The robbers locate the source of the voice, but are greeted by Jim, who is now aiming the shotgun right at their faces. By morning, while Jim and Josie's parents try to wake up with cups of coffee, Josie returns to the store. The young couple calls the police, and it's the sheriff who finds the two robbers securely tied up. A little later, Jim and Josie, in a luxury car, drive down the streets of their hometown for the last time. They're heading straight to Hollywood, ready for a brand new life. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.